Welcome to the White Rose Media Channel. This is a new channel that I am starting right here, right now on January 2nd, using an old beat-up laptop with a partially broken lid and some equipment that I picked up from thrift stores and other places where you can get used gear. I do hope in the future, if this channel starts to make money, to upgrade everything. But in the meantime, I hope you'll enjoy the extremely lo-fi experience of listening to my recordings. My initial recording today is going to be about Brett Cooper's appearance at the TP USA event AmFest 2024. And as most listeners will already know, it's big news on the interwebs. Brett Cooper recently left the Daily Wire, and there's been speculation about whether this was voluntary or not. She herself, in her parting video, says that it was totally voluntary, and she is wearing a blue sweater, which is apparently due to her fans requesting that she wear blue in her last broadcast if she is constrained from speaking by an NDA. And it apparently is the case. It seems to be what she's doing here, saying she's constrained from speaking. But it would not be an NDA that keeps her from speaking. An NDA applies to giving out business secrets. Like if you're a marketing company, you wouldn't want an employee to take the client list when they leave and let competitors have it so they can try to poach customers. That wouldn't really seem to apply in her circumstance, but I am sure there is very, very strong non-disparagement language in her contract where she is not allowed to say anything bad about the media company that she left because that could harm them financially. There's also probably very, very strict language about negotiated and mediated settlements of the terms of her leaving, and there's probably really strong confidentiality language around that. So there will be lots and lots of constraints about her saying anything upon leaving, but an NDA would not cover the situation. As she's leaving, she makes a speech at TPUSA it's about 10 days later, I think. And she kind of gives her side of what's going on without giving any details about what happened. It's more about how it affected her. Let me play a little bit of her opening at AmFest to show you what I mean.
As my first ever political event. So to be on stage now with you, literally just 3 years later, is very, very surreal. I'm incredibly honored to be here. And it feels so full circle because TPUSA came into my life, during COVID, during 2020, at a time when so many of us felt isolated and lonely. I had been effectively canceled by all of my friends. I had left my sorority due to the rabid politics, and I wasn't working in Hollywood after 10 years because I refused the vaccine. And one day, after seeing a
And in this opening, she's talking about the first time she came to a TP USA event. It was after she had dealt with being canceled, pushed out by people she worked with, and probably people she considered friends. And she talks about being lonely and feeling isolated. And I'm sure she's feeling a lot of the same things now. She's using the events 3 years ago as an analogy for what she's going through now. She's come full circle. She's back at TPUSA, and for largely the same reasons as the reasons that she was here before. A little bit further on in her speech, she mentions that she launched the comment section, which is very, very carefully chosen language. Let me play you a little bit of that.
School, thank God I didn't go. That would have been terrible for me. But I ended up moving to Nashville, where I launched the comment section. But which I hosted until just a couple of weeks ago. Good things coming. coming. Good things coming. So all that to say, I became highly, highly engaged in politics and the culture war. But in this, I quickly found myself becoming dependent on the news cycle to regulate my mood and regulate my hope. And obviously,
and again, here she's indicating how emotionally devastating the situation was for her, because she had built up a lot of feeling of her self-worth was tied to the success of this new project, and being kicked out of it was extremely devastating to her. She's indicating that, and the language she used, I launched the comment sections carefully chosen so as to not make any claim about it being her intellectual property, and she felt robbed by the Daily Wire on the way out. But in the past few months, she has discussed how the comment section came about and described how it was her idea, basically. And I'm going to play a little clip from a Lila Rose interview that she did where she talks about how it came about. But she's talked about this in other interviews over the past few months. And it seems to kind of give a basis to the idea, yeah, the comment section was her idea. I don't know if that would be of any use to her in legal wrangling, because I am sure that the Daily Wire bought the idea when they got her contract. That's the usual way media companies, music companies, they buy everything you do. They now own your portfolio, your ideas. They bought it. It's theirs now. So even if she can claim that she created it, I think they may have a case for saying, you sold it to us when you signed with us. But here is where she discussed how it came about on the Lila Rose interview.
That was super important. So I thought, okay, this is how I will angle it and approach it. And ironically, I had a little baby pilot that I had put together that I had shopped around at other conservative organizations, basically, where I wanted to do a show like that, where I wanted to do a reaction show with the fast edits, reading comments. And for legal reasons, Daily Wire could not accept it. They were like, we can't accept a pitch, but you can just tell us about it. So they actually.
And this again is kind of indicates the legal situation. It's really common, Hollywood scriptwriters can't really pitch things to production companies, because then they can go back and say, you stole my idea. So production companies don't want you to pitch, they don't want you to tell about it. They don't want to pitch the idea, because then you can come back later and say, hey, that was my idea. I told you about it, and then you ripped me off. But this is several months ago, so this would predate any of the recent wrangling, and she's talking about it in an interview, and she's talked about it in other interviews, about how she came up with this idea, presented it to the Daily Wire. But what they're doing when they say you can't pitch it to us is legalese for, if you pitch it to us, then you could come back to us later. So don't pitch it to us, just tell us about it.
Never saw that episode, but it basically, that's what comment section is. And they had a very similar idea, and so it really felt just meant to be and very harmonious, because I sent in my little audition, I met with them, and we were, just riffing on what we saw the show being and where the actual need was for young people. And it was very cool because the entire team that developed my show with me, they're all Gen Z, they're all my age. Some of them aren't at the company anymore, but I think the oldest was 24. And so this show was created by young people. It was created for my generation. Obviously, people of all age watch it, but it was specifically, filling a niche that we all had felt, didn't exist.
And I started watching these videos of her interviews from the past few months to see if there's any indication of the problems that recently cropped up at the Daily Wire that led up to her leaving. And I didn't see anything, unless in these interviews where she is describing how the comment section came about, she is anticipating the comment section claiming that it's their idea. And she's kind of getting ahead of it by talking about it in these interviews from months ago, when they can't really come after her for saying anything out of line. I'm sure now she can't say anything. back then, in all of these interviews, she describes how the comment section came about. And it's clear that she's saying this was something that I presented to them. It was my idea. But as I also said, the comment section probably has in their contract, we bought it from you. So even if you can claim that it was your idea, we purchased it, it's ours now. Additionally, in her speech at TPUSA, she talks about resilience, bullying, slander. Let me play a few of those clips so I can show you what I mean by that.
It is the determination to one day be able to tell my future children that I stood firm in my beliefs, that I was not bullied into silence, that I fought to make the world better, and that I did it joyfully, that I showed up on my show every single day joyfully because it mattered.
So she's talking about not being bullied into silence. And again, she's using the analogy of what she's ostensibly talking about in her speech to show what was going on with the Daily Wire. It's a very clever way to present this. She's talking about it without talking about it, presenting it in a way that can't be construed as violating any non-disclosures or non-disparagement language. So I admire her for this. She's very clearly stating her position into what happened without giving any details that would put her in legal jeopardy. She goes on to talk about slander. I believe this is a clip where she talks about slander.
Gratitude literally rewires your brain to focus on goodness and joy. That is scientific. It builds resilience in the process. It shifts your perspective, helping you navigate even the most chaotic of times, like we are living in literally every single day. It's getting a lot better, but it's been crazy. And as Americans, we have even more reason to be grateful. And yes, we fight for change. And yes, there are challenges that we will face, but we still live in the freest nation on earth. A place that millions of people from around the world dream of coming to. Our daily struggles are still somebody's dream life. There are people around the world, especially women, who would literally kill to be in this room with us, who would.
And here she's indicating again how emotionally crushing the situation was for her. But then she is saying, as difficult as it is for us, meaning me, there are women around the world who would love to be in my situation, to have this power, to have my problems. And I really admire her for this as well. She's saying, hey, this is difficult. I'm going to keep fighting. And I know that as difficult as it is for me, there are people all over the world who would like to have my problems.
For the opportunity to be able to speak publicly about their values. And for me, that overwhelming sense of gratitude, that matters more than the daily squabbles that we see online, the social media slanders, the debates, the hit pieces, whatever they throw at us, that matters more.
And here she talks about slanders and hit pieces being thrown at us. And I think that's anticipating that as she moves forward, she could be facing that sort of thing, that she is preparing herself and her audience for things to get a little bit ugly here in the future. I don't think that she is going to do anything. I don't see her doing a Candace Owens where she goes to open warfare. I kind of admire her for playing it a little closer to the vest, not overtly attacking, but I do think she has some strong positions coming up, and she is anticipating some strong counterattacks. That's just my take on what's going on here. And then she also talks about resilience. So again, I think that...
Feelings, and those feelings are fleeting. True, lasting fulfillment and resilience, more importantly, does not come from external forces. It comes from within. It comes from living a life that is grounded, that is steady, and that it is aligned with your values and your purpose. I mean, to borrow.
And at the end of this, she talks about Jordan Peterson and his advice to her. But again, she is talking about how emotionally crushing all of this was for her. But she is saying she is resilient. She's going to come back. She's described how she's come back from disappointments and setbacks before. She's going to do it again. And I really believe that there's something coming up probably very soon. That's why I kind of rushed this out, because I think that her larger response, her follow-up, is going to be coming pretty soon, and I wanted to get this video up before that happened. I had come up with a more clever video where I played Destiny's Child, I think it's called Survivor, and had some a nice little script where I referred to her as the Queen Bee and talked about how she still had her sting. But I decided I couldn't do that because I'd probably get a copyright strike, and I didn't want to do that on my first video. No copyright strikes on your first launch. And I really, really admire her for the way she's doing this. She's being very careful not to say anything that can be construed as, violating non-disclosure, non-disparagement. But she is getting her point across quite clearly as to her position and what happened. But we still don't know any details about what's happened. I'm just guessing that it involves the company now owning the rights to her idea, and going forward, she is probably constrained from not doing a show that's constructed as she described in the Lila Rose interview. So she probably has to be very careful not to do things that could be considered elements of the comment section without, unless she wants to really go to war with the Daily Wire. We'll see how that works out. She may be preparing herself and her fans for open warfare, but we just have to wait a little longer to see what happens there. She hasn't spoken up fully yet. Thank you for listening to this first broadcast. I know it's hurried and quality probably isn't that great, but as I said, I hope you like lo-fi productions, because that's what this is going to be for a while. Thank you for listening. Do like and subscribe. That'll help me out to start improving the equipment situation here. Good day from the White Rose Media channel.